Hey friends, hey friends, hey friends. This is Coach roseaj, Carnivore Girl for Life. We have another fantabulous interview. We have Miss Landi that's here. She is 54 years old and she can be found on Landio on Instagram. She's been carnivore for 7 months and she was formerly a vegetarian. She has MS and she's going to share different points of her story of her life, but especially about how the ketogenic diet has had a positive impact on her MS and what she's doing from this day forward and into the future. And if I remember correctly, Landy, you mentioned that you are a carnivore who doesn't like meat, but I understood that to be that you have very specific cuts of meat that are your preference as opposed to the ribeye steak that everybody supposedly loves. That's a carnivore. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. So I was a vegetarian who liked bacon, and so that carried over. And so I've never liked steak my whole life. Even as a child, I wouldn't eat it, and so that's just a peculiarity about me.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and I will ask you questions as we go along if I need to ask you some questions. But it's all about you, Boo. Go ahead and do your thing and talk to us.
Okay, all right. Well, I didn't start right away on carnivore. I really started first with keto. And so I was under the 20 carb, I did 20 net carbs. And I started with Dr. Berg, because I watch a lot of YouTube and I landed on a Dr. Berg video and he was talking about what's the best diet or how to eat for your body type. And so he's all about cruciferous vegetables, and you need 7 cups of cruciferous vegetables. And it's kind of funny because every one of his videos ends up doing keto, and the same with Dr. Berry. Every video, every ailment, you end up with low carb. And so I started eating 7 cups of vegetables, but to get 7 cups of vegetables down, I have to have a lot of sauce, a lot of salad dressing. And so I started gaining weight eating all those salads. And so, I'm not a diet person. I don't like diets. And so looked into keto and decided to do keto like forever as a lifestyle. Because I don't do diets. I watched my mother starve herself and stop and starve. I don't want to do that. And so I was keto. I started keto in 2015, I think. It's been a long time. And I lost 45 pounds. And, but I was also calorie counting because I was going through menopause. And so, so I got lower and lower and lower with my 20 net carbs. And I was doing everything. I was weighing my food. I had a ketometer. I was checking my blood. And so I knew exactly how many carbs I could eat and stay in ketosis. And I would be in ketosis, but I'd have all those cravings. But to keep the cravings under control, I had to keep it under 20 net carbs. And so I got to a point where it wasn't worth it anymore. I was just the amount of calories I would have to cut to keep losing weight was too low for it to not be sustainable. And so a lot of people call it maintenance. I went into maintenance. And so I went up to 50 carbs. And so I just ate 50 carbs from then on. And so what I was eating was bologna sandwiches with chips, and I kept it under 50 carbs. So a lot of grains. I added grains back. And
So,
so, oh,
so let
yes.
me ask you here. So you were doing net carbs as opposed to total carbs. What was the reason that you were doing net carbs as opposed to total carbs? Because the math comes out differently when it's total carbs, right?
Right. Well, at the time, I was in a lot of groups, and basically they said, well, if you're not a diabetic, you don't have to be that strict. You can be net carbs and you'll be fine. And I was fine. It worked. And so, and in my mind, like vegetables don't count basically because they're vegetables,
They're
right?
vegetables, but they're still carbs,
I
right?
know
They're
that.
they're a
I
better source
know.
of carbs, obviously, than the processed carbs, right? I
Yes.
I get that, but they're still carbs, especially if you're counting them.
Yes, that's
Okay.
right. That's right. And so, and I had an active job, and so I was walking a lot, and so it worked. It worked for a while, and then the pandemic hit, and I wasn't active anymore, and I was home with my bologna sandwiches, and the chips got bigger and bigger, the bag of chips, and so then I decided to do keto, not keto, carnivore, and because I watched a lot of videos, and so there's everyone, all these doctors started talking about carnivore, and so I decided to try it, and to my surprise, it worked. Because I don't like vegetables either. I'm a vegetarian, doesn't like vegetables, and so I started with a hard keto reset. And so I started with lots of meat and salad, um, and I think I had some broccoli, and I did that for a week, and then I switched to over to full carnivore.
So when you say that you did a keto hard reset, what did that entail? Did it entail a specific amount of carbs that you were shooting for? Or were you cutting out maybe some sugar alcohols, some processed food? What did that entail for you?
I cut the grains. So
Okay.
all that wheat that I was eating, I stopped that.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
And so after a week, you went into carnivore.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so like a transition food was a salad with bacon grease salad dressing. It was delicious. And so then so I like I said I've been on carnivore for 7 months, and I don't have a scale, and I did that on purpose. So I haven't been weighing myself, but I did take before pictures, and I've been measuring myself. And so I've lost 3 inches in my bust, and 5 inches in my waist, and 3 inches in my hips. And
Okay.
I'm taking the slow road because of all the internal healing that needs to be done for me.
Can you talk to us about some of the internal healing that needs to be done for you? And congratulations on those inches lost. That body recomp is real.
It is, it is. And so, like I said earlier, that I have MS, and I was diagnosed in 2004, and I think I got it. It's not in my family at all, and I think I got it because of real chronic stress, just wearing down the brain connections. And so I control my MS with lifestyle. So as soon as I was diagnosed, I changed my job, I changed what I eat, and I changed, like if I'm tired, I go to sleep. And so I used to be like Martha Stewart, and I change all the decorations every month for whatever holiday it was, and everything was perfect and beautiful, and I sew and I cook and I grow my garden and all this stuff, and I stopped all of that, and all I do is as much as I can, and then if I need to rest, I rest now. And so that worked. That worked until the pandemic hit, and I lost my big fancy job, and so I only had my side jobs. And so I was really it's really stressful. And so I think that added to what I was going through for the MS. And also, right before the pandemic, I was driving 3 hours a day for my commute. It was getting worse and worse. And so that really took its toll on my health as well. And so I started taking Ritalin. I don't know if you know this, but that's a stimulant that is used for people with MS.
I didn't know that.
And yeah, I was in one of the studies for that. And so they tested four drugs that are for other things, and that was the only one that worked for me. And so I have trouble reading things, and I have trouble writing things and making decisions. And so that Ritalin just helps me finish the thought and accomplish things.
So are you still taking Ritalin today, or was it a short?
I started about a year before started 2019, maybe like in the middle of 2018. And but I had to keep taking more and more to get everything done during the pandemic when it was getting worse and worse because of the stress of just trying to keep my job and pay my mortgage. And so, but when I started carnivore, that stopped. So I was taking Sudafed every day, Benadryl every 4 hours, Ritalin every 4 hours, and now I don't. So it's like once a week, if I have a deadline or something, I'll take it. Or if I leave my house, I have to take it because of all of the spores and the wind, because I'm allergic to everything.
Okay.
But so I'm not taking all those drugs anymore. And so it's been really good.
How did you know when it was time to taper or just stop taking those 3 items and just
Well,
use them as
something
needed?
something about MS is that you're very forgetful. Very. And so one day I'm like, wait a minute, when was the last time I took that medicine? It was a week ago. Wow.
So, do you log when you take your meds?
No,
Um,
when I was taking them that often, I would put the maximum amount of medicine that I could take for the day in a little dish.
okay,
And I would look at the dish and so I could tell if it was time or not.
okay,
And so I would never
gotcha.
take more than what was in the little dish.
And you set it up for the whole week like that, or
Day
just
by
day by
day,
day? Day
every
by
night.
day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you realized that it was a week since you last took your meds, did you go like, "Whoa, Nelly, I'm on to something here"?
It made me happy. It made me very happy to not, because I was taking a lot of Ritalin for sure, and all of those are not good. All of those things I was taking are not good for your heart. And so I was really happy to be able to function without needing so much medication. Yeah. And
Now,
so, oh, go on.
no, no, you go ahead. Go ahead, girl. Go
I
ahead.
was going to say, so now I'm not taking daily naps. I I I think I've had like 2 naps in the last 7 months. I still stop. I have to stop when I'm tired and rest, but there's no daily naps anymore, which is great. And I'm feeling well enough to do basic things like wash dishes or do my nails or vacuum. Like, so when you have chronic fatigue, all you can do is just lie there and do nothing. And so it's great to be able to do those basic tasks.
So now that you're able to do your basic tasks and you have energy for those, I also remember you saying that you were bubbly and you were talking about this lifestyle to others, including a meat stocking person in the
Yeah.
grocery store. Tell us about that.
So in about day 10, this cloud lifted that I didn't know I had. And I can't explain it. I can't articulate it any other way, but just life is better and I'm happier or but it's not happy, meat doesn't make you happy, but I can't explain it. It's like your circumstances don't change, but you can just handle them better now. And so I'm bubbly and I'm just a happier person now. And you know how that kind of perkiness kind of irritates people. And so I think I'm kind of, I really try to zip it with my friends because they don't want to hear about it too much. You don't want to, like I said, you don't want to overwhelm people with the good news, right? And and so it 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 it's like a leaky faucet, and so it gets out sometimes. And so like when I go shopping at the supermarket, I say, I'm just so excited to tell people, and I'm like, I switched to an all meat diet, and you can see in my cart, there's nothing in there but a pile of meat, right? Because go once a month, and so I buy a month's worth of meat and butter, right? And people just look at me, and then they just keep it moving. They don't say anything, they don't respond. And I thought, well, okay, the meat guy. And so I tell the guy putting the meat on he's stocking the shelves, and I'm take emptying the shelf places,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
and and he doesn't say anything. He just keeps stalking, and so no one wants to talk about it.
Well, girl, I do. I do. Yes, that's beautiful, beautiful. So, speaking of meat, and you have very specific cuts of meat that you prefer, can you talk to us about that? What
Well,
your
I prefer the Price is Right here, and the Price is Right, the lowest, cheapest meat possible that I can eat. is ground beef, of course, and pork. And I started out with chicken thighs. And so I was putting a lot of work into this because, I came from the keto world and I do like to cook. But when you're as tired as me all the time, you just got to eat it. But I was mixing in seasonings and making all these fancy burgers, and I cooked them, and all those seasonings would be left in my pan. And so I said, no more with the seasoning because, I had to learn how to cook meat. I learned to buy it. I don't know how to cook meat, or I don't know what I'm doing. And so I like carnitas, and so I Googled how to make carnitas. And so then I had to go find that kind of meat at the store. And so I started with chicken thighs, and those were good, but they're not satiating, and I don't know why. They used to be, but now I have to eat too many for it to be worth it anymore. And so that's when I switched over, just slowly over time, to the ground beef. And I like the pork, and so you start with bacon and you eat the whole package because you're allowed to now, right? And so I did. And it's funny. I remember Thanksgiving, went to my friends and I said, well, I was getting kind of hungry before we ate tonight, so I had a pound of bacon before I came over. Just say stuff like that. No, and they don't. They're like, oh, and they just keep it moving. They don't say anything either.
Like, whatever.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so let me think here. So I started with bacon and then I moved over to pork belly, which is bacon without that smoke stuff. And then I switched over to pork rib, or, well, first the blade steaks, because they're $4 a pound. And so I cut them up into tiny cubes and put them in my air fryer. And that's another story. I've had the air fryer in a box for 5 years and I pulled it out for carnivore. Isn't that funny? So now I use it every day. And so I mix in the ground beef with the country pork rib. So I moved from the blade steaks to pork rib, yeah, country pork rib. And again, I cut them up with my kitchen shears and I put them in my air fryer, and it's delicious.
So do you eat pretty much the same every day or in rotation, the same foods in rotation? And I heard you mention butter.
Yeah, it's I like the taste of butter, and
Mhm.
so I just like to eat it. And so I'm trying to figure out if I'm hungry because I'm bored or if I'm hungry because I really am hungry. And so sometimes I'll just eat a pat of butter basically, and see. And Dr. Chafee, one of the carnivore doctors, he says you eat until it doesn't taste good. And so some days that butter does not taste good, and some days it tastes really good. And so then you can kind of tell, oh, then I should be eating this butter because it's delicious. And so that's what I do.
Isn't it crazy how taste buds change over time, right? In the beginning, you were talking about eating chips and sandwiches and whatnot, and now we're talking about butter and very specific cuts of meat and an air fryer that was in the box for 5 years. Yes. So do you have, and I think I heard you mention something about mayonnaise, that you liked mayonnaise.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not a sugar person. I'm not a sweet tooth. My favorite things are salt and fat. And so I lost all that weight, those 45 pounds, eating mayonnaise-based salads, salad dressing. And so I would make my own salad dressing every day with sriracha and garlic. It was delicious. And so it's hard to give that up because I really like that. And to eat, for variety, I like to eat tuna salad. So I like processed meats and meats covered in mayonnaise, basically. And so I like salami, chorizo, hot dogs, bacon, and ground beef.
So this is the funniest thing. So like I mean, when I say I love bacon, I'm obsessed with bacon, right? I love Polish sausage. I love beef, hot dogs, beef, Polish sausage, whatever they're called. I'm a Costco girl, so I get Kirkland brand.
Yeah, those are good. The hot dogs there are really good.
Yeah, so
Let's go
this is
hot
my
dogs.
problem though. If I eat a hot dog or a Polish sausage or a pack of bacon, I automatically gain 5 pounds because of the water retention. It's just automatic. So
Oh,
what I do is I just go, well, let me just go 4 or 5 days eating these meats and then eliminate them, right? Until the next 3 months or whatever. So, and even bratwurst and stuff. So, do you have any kind of response with certain cuts of meat versus others? Am I making
well,
sense?
yeah, it's so new that I can't tell. And I also eat dairy. And so, like, sometimes at night, right before I go to bed, and I know you're not supposed to eat before you go to bed, but that's what I do. I'll have a little piece of cheese. I like that manchega cheese from Costco. It's really good. That Spanish cheese. And or a brie. I got the huge thing of brie because I saw someone say that they ate a whole wheel of brie, and I thought, ooh, let me try that. But they're at their goal weight, and so I know you're not supposed to be eating dairy before your goal weight, but I love brie.
You know, they say the best way to lose weight is the way that you plan on keeping it off. So, if you're going to have brie cheese or any kind of cheese in your dietary protocol, you might as well try to incorporate it. And like you said, you're in it for the long haul, nice and slow. So, who knows, right? Who knows?
Right. So I don't really feel like I have a response. I ate some cookies because when I go get my monthly meat, I got some cookies and because when I go down to really low carbs, then my body's like, "Where's the sugar?" Even though I'm not a sugar person. And so I get the cookies and then it takes me 3 days to get over the cookies once they hit my body. And I think it's the wheat. I don't think it's the sugar.
So, if it takes you 3 days to get over the cookies, is it because it's a ritual for you every month that you do that, or because you like them, or
Well, I like them, and so I did it for 2 months, and then the third month I didn't do it because I don't have 3 days. I can't give up 3 days for those cookies. And so it's a matter of your palate changing, and it's a matter of learning my body and what I can handle, what I'm willing, because they're not bad. There's no rules, right? There's no rules about carnivore, and it's just about, well, I don't want to give up those 3 days anymore, and so I'm not going to eat those cookies.
that's kind of where I'm at with like the beef dogs and the Polish sausage and the bacon and whatnot. Do I want to experience those 5 pounds for 3 to 5 to 10 days? Because I'm a daily weigher. That's just me. I weigh every morning and it doesn't throw me over the edge to see it because I know it's coming. But in reality, do I really want to endure that? So I'm cutting them out for a while to see if I can just hang in there, right? So,
Right, right. And
yeah.
when I eat those hot dogs, I eat them with relish and mustard
Okay.
and
Okay.
mayonnaise. And
Okay.
so,
Okay. So you've mentioned mayonnaise a couple of times. My grandmother, I was born in the South in Texas, and I lived with her for the first couple of years of my life. And supposedly we were so poor that she would give me like mayonnaise and mustard sandwiches and stuff like that. And I used to eat them all the time as a child. So now with mayonnaise, I have to be very, very careful. The only one that I can actually eat is the one that we make from Greece, make at home and whatnot, or Primal Kitchen because it doesn't have anything in there that triggers me. But I'm like, I used to be addicted to mayonnaise. So I get it when you say you're dipping your meat or doing whatever with mayonnaise. Yes.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, gotta let it go. I switched to, sour cream. That's been good to switch to.
So day to day, if there's people that are in your life that you can't be overzealous or over bubbly with and have conversations with, and I know you're in YouTube University, I'm right there with you, girl. I am right there with you 24/7 if I could, but I can't. But I get it. How do you get support other than the YouTube videos and whatnot? How do you get support in this lifestyle? Is it through reading or do you have communities that you're connected with?
Actually, I'm not in any communities for that, for carnivore. I'm the only one. And I'm kind of used to that. I'm kind of used to being the only one in a lot of stuff. I'm half black and half white, so I've been in that third culture my whole life. And I do Bible journaling, which is faith-based journaling. And I'm the only live Bible journaler that I know, and I've been doing that for 7 years. And that's what started the journey. So I did all this internal work and it came out, and then I started doing the external work. And then that moved out to my community, and so now I'm doing the community work. So I don't I don't I don't necessarily need to be part of a group in real life. I know a bunch of people online on Instagram, and I get
So you,
that's the closest thing.
so you're getting support or you're having conversations somewhere, but just not in real life with the people
Not about
that,
carnivore. Not about carnivore.
okay. Um, so obviously people have noticed a change in you in the
Well, I'm
last six,
like,
7, 8 months.
hey, I lost all this weight. I'm feeling good. Hey. And they're like, good for you, Landy. I'm happy for you.
So no one's questioned you. No one said, hey, 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 I've noticed that
No.
you,
Mm-mm,
isn't that
mm-mm.
something? Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. And there's one, you know, the, well, that study that came out that said you'll get diabetes if you eat red meat.
Yeah.
One of my friends told me I was going to get diabetes if I ate red meat because that's what her her diabetes doctor told her. I'm like, that's not true. And then she just dropped it and kept it moving. She didn't want to talk about why, like the mechanics of your body and why that's not logical. She didn't want to have that talk. And then I had another vegan tell me, well, that one friend is vegan who told me that. And then I had another friend, she said, well, aren't you worried about the long-term effects of eating like this way? Because I said, all my numbers are good. I told him that. I got the blood work. All my numbers are good. She goes, well, aren't you worried about the long-term effects? I said, there are none. Because I watched a million videos. I've seen these people. They've been carnivore forever and they're just fine.
So let me ask you, speaking of vegetarian or veganism, were you raised to be vegetarian or did you
No.
turn over to that lifestyle at a certain age because of college, because of friends or anything?
So I've never liked meat. And so when I went to college, I said, why am I fighting it? Why am I forcing this meat down? I'm just going to stop eating meat. Because at Berkeley, you can be a vegetarian, and there's a billion other vegetarians here with you. It's very easy to be vegetarian here.
Did you have any health complications with being a vegetarian, or were you supplementing and everything was all good?
Oh, well, I take a multivitamin, or I did until I started carnivore, and it was a hardcore one. It was prenatal. So I've been taking prenatal vitamins since I had my children 28 years ago.
Okay. So that's been in your repertoire.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I'm anemic, and so I took a lot of extra vitamins. I was taking B1 vitamins because B1 and B3 are depleted when you're stressed out, and so I was taking those. And I was taking iron because it's hard. My body just doesn't like to absorb iron when I'm eating grains. And so once I stopped the grains, the iron stayed with me. And what else was I taking? D3. And that's because my doctor, and she's a researcher, my neurologist does MS research. And so she recommended 4,000 UIs of D3. And then I added the K2 because I watched a million videos about it. And so then you never get too much D3 if you've got that K2 with it.
Mhm.
And the probiotic, because there's research out there somewhere that says you lose more weight if you're taking a probiotic. But I take the cheap ones. They're not from the refrigerator section.
Okay.
But I can tell the difference. I feel
Okay.
better. But
Speaking of supplementing and whatnot, and you mentioned your doctor just a second ago. Um, Before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about the healthcare system, how it's not
Hmm.
equally accessed for all. Could we talk a little bit about that? Because for me, I've always had medical coverage, right? I've always had medical coverage, but I didn't necessarily want to go to the doctor. Does that make sense? And
Right,
for
right.
about 3, maybe 2 years, I paid out of pocket because, long story short, I stopped working in 2019 and I had to figure my life out when I was at my rock bottom, and paying for healthcare was not at the top of my list. I just paid out of pocket, right? And
That's
I
popular in this area too, all the gig economy. Yeah.
I think it's healthcare can be a scam at times, right? Depending on, what you're going to the doctor for, but especially if we don't know to advocate for ourselves, people of color, how
Hmm.
to advocate for ourselves in a way that can come across as a way that we're communicating our concerns about our health without, I want to try to be selective on the words here, but without being considered aggressive.
Right, right. Well, I didn't have that problem with the health professionals that I've come in contact with, and that might be just because I'm using the teaching hospital, and so they're open to new ideas and new research, and they want the best for their patients because they're just in that frame of mind of research. I remember seeing for my well check like 15 years ago, I had this black resident, and so she saw that I was fat, and she immediately went and wanted to test my blood and make sure I didn't have diabetes. Like she in her mind she knew I had diabetes, and I don't have diabetes, but she thought I did. Because when you're a new teacher, when you're a new doctor, that's what they tell you in school. They tell you all the fat black people have diabetes. And so I got that one time. But for the health equity part, what I didn't realize until I got sick is that a lot of times we don't think about, oh, I want to volunteer for research. I want to help the world and contribute to the world's understanding of medicine and be in these research studies. They're very inconvenient, and they give you an honorarium, but it's not really enough to pay for everything. And so once I got diagnosed, I couldn't afford, because at the time I had like catastrophic insurance, which is it's the kind of insurance for like once a year you go to the doctor, and then it covers you if you're in a car accident or something. It's not for like hanging out at the doctor's office or anything. And so you have to get MRIs, and at the time it would cost me $200 every time I got an MRI, and that was 20 years ago. And so I'm like, I can't afford these. I'm going to be paying 10 years off this hospital bill. I think it was $80,000 was the bill for the hospital. And so I had to pay 20% of that with my health insurance. And so it took me years to pay off that thing. And I was paying off my divorce. And so I didn't have any money. And so she said, well, there's this study. And so then it occurred to me that, you know, the the health of society is built on the backs of the poor who are in these studies, because that's all they're desperate for the medical care that they need.
So it turned out to be a good thing for you that the
Yes,
doctor mentioned
yes,
this study.
yes. And so I had
Okay.
free MRIs for a year, and
Okay.
I they take a lot of blood. So then you have to like, if you're worried about like the man, the man has my blood, the man has my tissue,
Yeah.
and that's a whole nother health equity thing about how companies use tissue. And there's like a famous black lady who's been using her tissue for decades. I forget her name now, but it's in that book, Medical Apartheid. But anyway, when you're desperate for
Mhm.
medical services, I signed my tissue away. I signed it all away, and so they gave me this medication, and they gave me an MRI every month, and so that's what I did for that time.
So how long of a time period was that? And do you still go back for testing or anything like that with that study?
Well, that study was a year long, and it ended up not working. So the medication for that particular study didn't work, and so they stopped. They went. I think they went about 10 months. It was a long time ago. And then I was in another study for off-label drugs for MS, and so they were designed or developed for some other illness, but people who have MS take those drugs. And so there were five of them, and one of them was a smart drug. One of them was Ritalin, and there was a couple other things.
Mhm.
And so the only one for me that worked in that study was the Ritalin, just barely.
So it sounds like you've been through some studies that have helped you and kind of ruled out things that didn't work for you.
Yes, yes.
Has any of those studies or any of your doctor ever talked to you about how your dietary protocol could have or could actually impact your
No,
MS?
no. And in her mind, she doesn't think it does. She just finished a study about sunlight versus taking D3 as supplements, and that one, the sunlight one. And so 20 years ago, she told me to take D3, but my last appointment last month, she's like, "Oh, you don't need to take D3 because it didn't work in her study." She's like, "Go sit in the sun. Sunlight
So, so
works."
so are you doing that right? Are you
I am,
like
yes. And so I go outside because my before I started carnivore, my nights were day and day was night. I'm all mixed up. My circadian rhythm is all messed up. And I sleep a lot, but it's at the wrong times. And so now with carnivore, I wake up with the sun and I can't seem to sleep more than 5 hours. And so that's a problem.
can't sleep more than 4 hours? You went
I,
from,
I,
I mean, I'm sorry. You
yeah.
can't sleep more than 5 hours. You stumped me there from needing sleep and having a messed up circadian rate. You know what
Yes,
I'm talking about,
yes.
to 5 hours of sleep. How
Yeah.
does that happen? Is it because
I don't know.
it's deeper sleep, better quality, and it's just straight through?
I don't know because I don't feel any more rested. So the problem with fatigue is you can sleep 10 hours and you wake up tired. And so I'm waking up tired still, but I can't be stay asleep.
So do you get up and go about your day, or do you do a couple of things and then try to go back to bed?
I kind of like lie there and I'll watch the videos. I watch the YouTubes for like an hour or two, and then I get up and I go outside and and sit there and take in the sun, and then I come back and try to work, and I'll sit there and stare at the screen for a lot and take do it as long as I can, and then I take a break. So my work day
So
is a lot longer than most people. I basically work until I can't stand it.
so you work from home,
Yes, I work from
remote.
home. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that good or not so good or meh?
It's very good. I've been going to grad school for 10 years so I can be an online professor. And so now I'm an online professor without a degree. I'm
You go.
like
You
6 classes away from starting a dissertation for my doctorate.
I'm so impressed and I'm so honored to be speaking with you. Amazing, amazing.
And something I
Okay.
realized that because I don't think about these things. My dissertation is on the intersection between childhood obesity, food insecurity, and maternal food choice. And so now I'm doing all this stuff with carnivore. So I don't know how carnivore is going to fit into all of that. Because basically, I wanted to study like why are all these very, very poor people so fat?
Yeah. Well, do you think you know the answer to that just off the top of your head from what you've been experiencing the last couple of months, let alone the last couple of years?
Well, I mean, with
When you take
carnivore, I could guess that it's the carbs and sugar, but there's 100 reasons why children are obese, and a lot of it has to do with food deserts and taking and being only children with only the only children of single parents. And so there's a lot of like I said, there's 100 reasons. And then the grandparents sabotage the parents because they're the only babysitters they can afford. There's, like I said, there's 100 reasons why
Mhm.
children are obese.
So, if there's food deserts, can you explain what a food desert is to maybe perhaps people that
Oh,
have never heard that word
well, that
or that
means
phrase?
it's like a healthy food is it's like a desert. You have to cross a desert to get to that healthy food. And so if you're poor and it takes you an hour on the bus to get to that healthy food in the supermarket, and all you have is gas stations or liquor stores near you, you're so tired. You just took an hour to get home on the bus and your child is screaming because they're starving. You're just going to go to the liquor store and get that trash food and feed your kid the trash food when you get home because you're just too tired. Or you may even be too tired to cook and you just buy the trash food that they can eat right now from the liquor store. And so that's one reason why they're that way.
Yeah. So, do you know of any places or maybe any programs that are in place to kind of help with those areas that have like projects that are going on to maybe like bring in like a super Walmart or something that will help alleviate that?
There are programs that do that, but
Mhm.
I don't know about them, but I know they exist.
They exist.
And something that they're doing in San Francisco is they have this program where they in the liquor stores intentionally carry healthy food. So they add like a rack in their store with healthy options, and it's made a difference.
Made a difference. And do
Yeah.
you think those items are overpriced in comparison to going to Costco or Safeway or Kroger or something like that? Or do you think they're
They're
appropriately priced?
they're priced like a 7-Eleven or something. So they're more than the
Mhm.
supermarket, but not that much more. It's not
Okay.
like airport food or something like that.
Okay. Okay. All right.
And they
So
were subsidized by the city. That's how that got started.
so that helps out. Okay. So that brings a little bit of hope where there may have been none just a few short years ago, it sounds like.
Yes, yes.
So, can I ask you, is there anything that you want to talk about in this interview that we haven't necessarily addressed, or anything that I might have overlooked in asking you?
I'm trying to think. The main thing is when I watch all these videos, I just want to make sure that, well, for me, I was worried that I was gonna have a heart attack and die. And I I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you you're not gonna have a heart attack, but there are lots of doctors out there in the stratosphere who can say that you're not going to get a heart attack and die. And you should go read their books and you can schedule consultations with those doctors and you can talk to real professionals who recommend keto and carnivore for health.
Yes. Yes. So, I'm going to share with you just really quickly that I went down the ketogenic path in December 2nd, 2018, along with intermittent fasting simultaneously. It took me 6 months. So in June of 2018, I was at my ultimate rock bottom. I had some decisions to make, and it took me 6 months just to get started. And I did everything haphazardly wrong, as wrong as you could do it. So compulsive overeating, binge, just think of everything that was me. That was me, right? But I eventually switched over to carnivore in January of 2020. I still had maybe 6 or 8 binging episodes because I took off from that way of life, but the first 4 months of January 2020 were the most peaceful surrounding food, and then I went back to it, and then in 2021 for about 6 months, January to June, I tried to reintroduce food, simple things like avocados, blueberries, whatever. I kept going off the deep end. So I've been carnivore and declared carnivore girl for life since June of 2021. And I can pretty much tell you and everyone out there that I've gone through the ringer and back. And I don't ever plan on going back to the standard American diet or other ways of eating. If you look forward to maybe even 3 months from now or 6 months from now, where do you see yourself as far as the carnivore protocol diet, do you see yourself reintroducing foods, or are you taking it one day at a time? How do you see your protocol?
I think this is it for me. So I never thought I'd be like full carnivore just because I don't like meat. But I a couple months ago, I bought my salad and everything and it didn't taste good. It didn't taste right. And so I let it go. And so I wish I could eat a salad because I love salads, but that's in my mind, right? I'm a vegetarian
Right.
in my mind.
Okay, so you don't think you see yourself going back? Do you think you'll revisit some foods maybe? Like if you're at a family gathering or you go to, a nice trip to like Mexico or something and you want to experience some of their cuisine, would you
Right. Yeah. So
perhaps?
over Christmas, my mother made the famous potato salad, and so I had one bite and it was okay. And so the next day I had a serving, like a half cup serving, and that was not okay. And
Okay.
I was really, really tired. I get the fatigue comes back. And so now I know I can't eat that because it'll put me back.
So your body gives you immediate feedback.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. And it sounds like if you wanted to on some things, you could moderate versus
Yes.
abstain. See,
Yes,
I'm a
I'm a
total
moderator.
abstainer.
Yeah, the
It's gotta
cookies
be.
go stale in my house. I just threw away some stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a moderator for sure.
So how can we close this out? Can we close this out with you talking to someone that's on the couch that's teetering, trying to make a decision? Maybe give them a word of wisdom or just
Yeah, I would say um, do your research and really understand what you're choosing to do because you need to know what's on the other end because it's not easy, but it's simple, right? And so I remember I must have been like 3 or 4 weeks in and I was still really tired. And I'm like, what? I don't like meat. I got to make this work. This has to work. We got to just keep powering through. And and so that's kind of what you have to do. You have to really believe that this is going to work for you because it's so easy to stop.
and so you saying that it has to work, was it something intuitively or just because of the results that you were feeling and seeing that made you keep forging ahead?
It's when that fog lifted, I'm like, oh, we cannot. There's no going back.
Yeah, and that was 10 days in, if I recall correctly,
Yeah,
about 10
yeah.
days in. All
hmm
right. All right. And if I got it correctly, you're Landio
Landio, well,
Keto
Landio
on Insta
Keto,
on
Landio Keto
Instagram.
on
So
Instagram. Yeah,
so guys,
there's no YouTube channel about carnivore.
but they can follow you on Instagram. You have some delicious looking pictures up there.
Yeah, yeah, just a few.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so if they
carnivore
want,
food is kind of boring.
you know what? I'm like a kid in a candy store. When I come home and I fry up my 4 or 5 hamburger patties and eggs, I be swinging my feet from the bar stool like, hey, this is it. Cause I only eat one meal a day. So I be ready to eat. Okay.
But it like mine, I love it, and I go to my I say, "Oh, this is so good!" Like every time. But it's a brown beige bowl of meat,
Yes.
little bits brown. It's not very good picture.
It's okay. It's food. I mean, and if you would have told me just 5 short years ago that I would be dancing for joy because I'm eating hamburger patties, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I would have said, you crazy. You
Although
crazy.
I had I had some baked eggs and those were good.
Mm, baked
I put them in the
eggs.
microwave. You put it in the like a dish with water in it, and then you put a little smaller dish in the middle, and you put your eggs in there with a bunch of butter and salt and pepper.
Okay. I might have to try that. Other than the scrambled eggs, I might have to try that.
Delicious. And it takes 2 minutes, sometimes three.
Okay.
I had 5 eggs today.
Mm,
And that's not really enough. You should eat more than 5 eggs for a meal.
girl, we'll talk off camera. Okay, y'all, look, we gotta go ahead and close this out.
Okay.
And like I said, go ahead and reach out to her, give her a follow on Instagram. And y'all, I need your support. If you know somebody that has a story, it doesn't matter what background, they're working on, send them my way because I want to have a new video every week of somebody sharing their current or even past life experiences to help other people out there. And y'all know I love to talk. I love to talk. I love to talk. So I'm looking forward to always meeting new virtual besties. All right, this is Coach Rose AJ, Carnivore Girl for Life, signing out. And Miss Landy is signing out too. All right, guys, thanks again. Bye bye.